and welcome to Retirement U TV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Brian Quaranta. He is president and founder of Secure Money Advisors, as well as Neil Major, senior investment advisor. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing great, Cynthia. It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you again. Neil, how are you?
I'm great, Cynthia. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you as well. And thank you both so much for coming in to do the show this morning. I know things have been so incredibly busy at the office. Neil, what types of questions are you hearing from people regarding planning for retirement?
Yeah, we're hearing a lot of different questions at the office. I mean, a lot of people have numerous concerns spread throughout, whether it be taxes, inflation, the market. You know, will the market continue to go up? Is that an all-time high? Should we start to make some changes to our portfolio? We're hearing a lot about the cost of living. You know, we're all experiencing that, how the goods continue to go up. We're seeing it each and every place that we go to, where we shop, gasoline, the grocery store, I mean, you name it.
Sure.
The prices are really going up. And then taxes, obviously, that's always a big one. You know, with what's been happening, people fear that potentially tax rates increase, and how does that impact their cash flow? You know, so it's a lot of good questions that are coming in, and you know, we hope to satisfy those concerns as much as possible when people come into the office.
Thank you, Neil. Brian, what about you? Anything else that Neil didn't mention that you're being asked?
Well, a lot of people will come in and say, look, I don't know when to take my Social Security.
Yeah.
They'll say, I don't have a pension and I need income. They'll say, you know, I'm at a point in my life where I can't afford to lose the money that I've accumulated over the last 35, 40 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these are real concerns going into retirement, because we don't get a dress rehearsal, right? I mean, we don't get a second shot at this. It's not a dress rehearsal. We got to make sure we get it right out of the gates. But I would say the most common concerns we typically hear is, I don't know how to generate income from my portfolio. I'm afraid of losing the money that I've accumulated up at this point, and I don't have a pension, and I need to create one. And that's what we do really well at Secure Money Advisors.
Well, you definitely do, and I know your clients really enjoy working with you. And I have a special treat for today's show, actually. We didn't get a chance to talk about this, but we have viewer questions, and so I would love to devote the entire show to just the questions.
Yeah,
Would
let's
that
do
be
it.
okay?
Great. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Brian, I'm going to guide the first one to you since you're sitting closest to me. This is a caller. Her name is Ann from Pittsburgh, and she would like to know this. Brian, my ex-husband and I were married 25 years before we divorced. He passed away this year. He was 68, and I am as well. My question is, how is Social Security affected? Will I still be entitled to half of his Social Security even though he passed away?
This is a great question, because this is one of the things that we do so well at Secure Money Advisors, is looking at all of these bad things happening on paper before they happen. You know, one of the things most people don't realize is that when you're generating cash flow in retirement and you look at the income sources most people have, if you're a married couple, you're going to have two Social Security checks. You know, let's say your wife has a $1,500 check a month and your husband has a $2,000 check a month. Well, what happens is when one of them die, the lowest check is going to fall off and they're going to pick up the highest check. But there's still going to be a reduction in income, right? Because there could have been a pension involved there. So Social Security planning is very important, but beyond Social Security planning is just cash flow planning in general. And that's the most important thing, because those situations will come up. We deal with those situations all the time.
Sure.
But what we're doing is we're looking at that stuff ahead of time. So when you come to our office, we'll look at what happens if your husband dies first, if you die first, and what those drops in incomes will be, and how much Social Security you would receive if one of you die.
All right. Thank you so much, Brian. Excellent response. Neil, this next one is for you. It says, I am Bernie in South Hills. I'm 64 years old. I'm still working. I make $130,000 plus a bonus each year. I don't have any debt. I don't own any property. I'm about to inherit $1 million, and half of it will be this month. I have a decent 401k. Where should I invest the inheritance? Would real estate be a viable option?
Wow, that's a really great question.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a significant amount of money to come into. So
Probably Bitcoin, right? By the way, full disclosure, that is just a joke, folks. Okay, I don't want him going out and buy a Bitcoin. Sorry, God.
Brian said so.
Yeah. Well, really, I mean, it's all about mapping out a game plan for you in your particular situation. So to say exactly how we're going to invest that money, you know, I'm not exactly sure of how I would tell you right off the bat until I learned a little bit more about your situation. But there's a lot of good options available for you, I'm sure. Real estate is definitely one of them. I mean, we all know that it's a really good appreciating asset, but also the amount of income that you can generate from real estate can be really good for retirement because it becomes like a pension.
Sure.
Now, the only challenge that I've seen in my office with real estate is that you do have, property management. You have to deal with tenants. You have to deal with updating the place. And sometimes that can be a little bit overwhelming for folks in retirement. But real estate's always a great investment.
And what we see a lot of folks, as they get older in our practice, where they actually want to get out of their real estate.
Correct.
Because it just becomes too much for them to manage. And they'll say, look, the kids don't want this. We really don't want it anymore. He's spending too much time taking care of the place or whatever it might be. So a lot of people, as they get older, really want to divest from those positions a lot of times.
One of the things I hear all the time is I'm sick of going over on Christmas Eve to unclog the toilet.
Right.
Yes, that's true.
But that's why to your
true.
point, it's money. If you're going to do it, having property managers is probably the better way to do it.
Yeah.
And spending a little bit of money to have those property managers. But you gotta really think about where to deploy that money to. It's a big sum of money that you're going to receive as far as an inheritance. You probably want to make sure you take good care of it. You don't want to lose it or risk it because it's coming from a family member of some sort. So there's a lot of responsibility that goes into that.
Sure.
The other thing, I wasn't sure if he mentioned where he was inheriting the money from.
No,
Does
he
it
did
say?
not. He just said, I'm about to inherit $1 million, half of it this month.
Yeah, so the other concern there, and we don't know much about his situation other than this, but the other concern there is, what if that's coming from a retirement account of some sort?
Yeah.
I mean, with the Secure Act, I mean, he could be looking at giving probably $400,000 to the IRS just in taxes alone because of it coming to him in the form of income. And this is where the Secure Act, which we talk about a lot, really comes into play because the Secure Act has changed the way that we inherit money. And inheriting money can be a big taxable event if not managed correctly.
Sure.
So it's important that you really understand the tax implications of where to transfer that money to maximize your situation. That's the first step.
Yeah.
Taxation's always the first step.
Yep.
Deploying it, whether it be investments or real estate or wherever it might be, that's secondary, right? But at the end of the day, a good plan will help you decide where to put that.
Sure, that makes sense. Well, Brian, I know that you and Neil have a special offer that you would like to present to the viewers at home. Let's talk about what that is and then open the phone lines.
Sure. One of the biggest questions that we get when most folks walk into our office is, are we on the right track?
Yeah.
Are we doing the right things? And folks, what I'm going to tell you is, if you're not on the right track, when would you want to know that, right? It's probably better now that you know that than later. And a lot of people that we sit down and meet with, they have investments, but they really don't have a plan itself. And there's two different phases that we go through with our money. There's an accumulation phase, there's a distribution phase. Most people are invested in that accumulation phase. They don't have a plan for distribution. I think they say that, there's a statistic about Mount Everest.
Yeah.
That, you would think that most people die on the way to the top, but in fact, the majority of deaths happen on the way down.
On the way down.
And you need a guide for the way down, and distribution's no different. You have to have a guide on the way down. So for the next 10 callers who call in, we are going to give you a complimentary portfolio analysis. We're going to help you go through 5 key areas. We're going to talk about your income, your taxes, your investments, your healthcare, and your legacy planning. But you've got to do your part. You've got to pick up the phone and call us. It's 1-888-382-1298, and you can schedule your complimentary portfolio analysis today. We're going to meet for about 45 minutes or so. We'll go through a lot during our meeting. Don't worry about what to ask. We know exactly what to ask you to help you guide you through the process as efficiently as we can and give you a lot of clarity and peace of mind moving into retirement. So again, that's 1-888-382-1298.
Brian, thank you so much. Neil, thank you so much. To the viewers at home, the phone number to call is on your screen. That number is 888-382-1298. We know you have a lot of questions about how to retire comfortably, how to retire with confidence. Brian and Neil have the answers for you. Now, we have to take a very short commercial break, but don't go anywhere. This whole show is dedicated to you. These are viewer questions, and the next one could be your very own. Stay tuned.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
And welcome back to Retirement UTV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Brian Quaranta. He is president and founder of Secure Money Advisors, as well as Neil Major, Senior Investment Advisors. Gentlemen, a great show we're having today. And obviously, it's so exciting because these are all viewer questions. And so we know people are paying attention each week. They're loving the information you're providing, but they have more questions that they want to have answered. So this is all about them.
Yeah, and I would say this too, Cynthia. If you have questions that aren't getting answered, take the time and go to our website, www.securemoneyadvisors.com. Go to our events tab and see where we're going to be next for our next educational event. And we get into a lot of topics during those educational events and answer a lot of different questions that we might not even get to on the show today.
Absolutely. Well, Brian, this is a great question for you. We've talked about this a little bit in the past, but Brian, I am curious as to know, I'm sorry, it's from Cranberry. I'm curious as to know what you think about the 4% retirement rule. Is it still accurate? And if it is, what type of mix of stocks and bonds and annuities would be appropriate to use with the 4% rule?
Yeah, it's a good question. What's your opinion on the 4% rule?
Well, that's a great question.
It's a good question. The 4% rule is just, it's got a high degree of failure. And again, that's according to the Wall Street Journal. I mean, the Wall Street Journal recently did an article on the 4% rule of whether or not it's viable anymore. Because if you trace back the history of this 4% rule, you can go back to the early 90s, and what you'll read is that there was this guy by the name of Bill Bengen who created it. And at the time, if you think about it, when it was created, we were in the 90s, so the markets were completely different, right? If you looked at what were bond rates back then? About 8%.
In mid-8s, yeah.
Cash was paying somewhere around 7.
Yep.
And then stock market returns were averaging what, about 14?
Correct.
Yeah. So if you look at that, and then today I believe bond rates are below 3%, about 2.9. Cash is paying us hardly anything.
Yeah.
I mean, the banks don't want our money anymore. And market returns are hovering where about right now? About 8 to 9, somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there.
So this 4% rule was all about putting a portion of your money in stocks and a portion of money in your bonds, right? And then withdrawing 4% a year. So if you had $1 million, you would start with withdrawing 4%, which would be $40,000. And then you would increase that withdrawal by 3% a year to keep pace with inflation. And what's interesting is if you look at the degree of failure with it, it's alarming. When you see that there's up to a 57% chance that the 4% rule could fail. So if you fast forward to where we are today, unfortunately, a lot of firms still focus on this rule. It's outdated, it's antiquated advice. There's new approaches and new ways of doing it. You mentioned annuities in there. Annuities is a great way to create a pension for yourself and actually buy time back on your growth portfolio. See, if you talk to any expert about investing, they'll tell you the number one key ingredient you need is time. If you just leave it alone, you'll be fine. But here's the problem. We're going from an accumulation phase to a distribution phase.
Yeah.
So how am I going to leave the money alone if I need to take it for income?
That's true.
I don't have time.
Yeah.
I need it right now. So that means, as the old saying goes, buy low, sell high. Well, if you're going to start taking $30,000 a year out in income and the market goes down, you're not going to stop taking the $30,000. You need it to live off of.
That's true.
So now you're going to sell low. So the way that you have to approach it is different than the 4% rule. And what we teach you when you come to Secure Money Advisors is the proper way to bucket your money. We always talk in buckets of money, and we need we need a now bucket, we need a soon bucket, and we need a later bucket. And we show you how to do that with the proper investment vehicles.
Okay, all right.
And to Brian's point, I think, what we've seen a lot of in dealing with the portfolio analysis that we provide, a lot of people are taking a lot more risk in their portfolios because the bond yields are so poor.
Absolutely, right.
So what we're seeing is a lot more people positioned in equities than they should be based on their age and their retirement date, because they just don't want to deal with the bonds and the low returns that they're getting. So it's interesting that they brought up the annuities because, to Brian's point, annuities, the view of them has really changed over recent years because they are a good, safe place to get a reasonable rate of return on your money so you can start to build those bucket strategies.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of misinformation about these annuities, and there should be, because there's a lot of different types out there. But if you read about them online, they can spook you a little bit. But if you get into a good annuity that's just simple, plain vanilla annuity, it could potentially be a really good strategy for you. It's not a good fit for everybody, but it potentially can really handle the bond portion of the portfolio. And basically what you're doing by buying an annuity is you're shifting the interest rate risk to the insurance company for a guarantee of income. Now, a lot of people think, well, geez, if I give my money to an insurance company, I'm never going to be able to touch it. I'm not going to be able to get it out. And that's just not true. You can take a lot of money out of your annuity every single year, and if you die, all the money goes to your family. So people just need to get re-educated on how they work, because they are becoming a great tool in retirement planning. And you're seeing more and more firms talk about the use of annuities in today's marketplace because of how bad safe interest rates are.
As licensed fiduciaries, it's our goal just to find you what are the best available options for a successful retirement. So, we don't care what it is. If it's the bond, great. If it's a CD, perfect. But we just have to find the right safe place, the right option, the right mix. And really, the annuities are at this point the best place for safety.
Gentlemen, thank you both so much. Excellent response to that question. Neil, you are next. This is a caller from Butler. They would like to know, I'm 92 and I want to invest some of my money with a company that has a bond fund where they buy and sell bonds, and you receive a share of the return that they are able to produce. I'm sure there are hundreds of companies that do that, but what has your experience been?
Wow, that's a really interesting question.
Considering we were just talking about bonds.
I know, right? It ties right in.
At 92 years old, I think, you have the right frame of mind. You want to be in a very conservative investment, right? You're 92, you don't want to deal with a 30, 40% stock market loss because, as Brian had mentioned earlier, you're dealing with time, right? So you don't know when exactly you will need that money. So now, is a bond going to be the best option for you? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, we just talked about how low the bond yields are. And oftentimes, too, there's that interest rate risk. So as interest rate goes up, your bond price goes down. So once again, you could be dealing with needing to pull your money out, and you could be facing a loss. So I would just say find a good local fiduciary to help you make the right decisions for you at the age that you are.
And that's a very important point, working with a fiduciary, because obviously you're putting your client's needs above anything else, and that's a beautiful standard that you follow.
Well, by law, we have to, right? Because that is the fiduciary standard that we adhere to. There's a special license that you get to make sure that you have the ability to do what's in the client's best interest, And you hope that every advisor does what's in the client's best interest, right? But the fiduciary has a responsibility to do it. It's just a little bit of a different, higher level than that. So
and not everyone is a fiduciary.
Not everybody is a fiduciary, but
testimonial.
there's great advisors out there that are not fiduciaries, but it is important in today's environment to probably work with one.
Absolutely, I agree. Well, Brian, I know you have a special offer to present to the viewers at home. Let's go ahead and talk about that and then reopen the phone lines.
Yeah, folks, the number one question Neil and I will get a lot of times at the office is, are we on the right track? Are we doing the right things? And a lot of times we'll hear things along the lines, they'll say, look, I'm at a point in my life where I want to get ready to retire. The only sources of income that we're going to have that are going to be guaranteed is going to be Social Security. It's not going to be enough for us to live off of. We're going to need to create a pension, but the only thing we have is a 401k. You know, and the 401k is not a pension, but you have to learn the strategies and techniques to create a pension with it. We'll also hear that people will say, we're at a point in our life we can't afford to take another big market loss. If this is you, take advantage of our portfolio analysis. Learn how to generate cash flow from your investments. Learn how to maximize your returns while reducing your risk. Learn how to lower your fees. Take your money without potentially running out of it. But you've got to do your part. You've got to pick up the phone, call 1-888-382-1298 to get your complimentary portfolio analysis today.
Brian, thank you so much. Neil, thank you so much. To the viewers at home, the phone number to call is on your screen. That number is 888-382-1298. We know you have a lot of questions about how to retire with confidence, how to retire comfortably. Brian and Neil are offering you the opportunity to have a complimentary consultation with them. Now, don't go anywhere. When we come back, we have time for a few more viewer questions. And again, it could be yours. Stay tuned.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
And welcome back to Retirement U TV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Brian Quaranta. He is president and founder of Secure Money Advisors, as well as Neil Major, senior investment advisor. Gentlemen, a great show we're having today. I love the viewer questions. So Brian, I think you're up next. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
This is a great call. This is Daryl in Butler, and he would like to know this. Brian, I'm 62, and I was planning to work for another 4 years before retiring. However, my job is wearing me down, and I'm not happy there anymore. So I'm tempted to just quit and start taking Social Security now that I'm eligible, and then work a low-stress part-time job somewhere. Have you seen people do this successfully?
We call it the hybrid retirement. We see it all the time. And you know, and you can successfully get that done because a lot of times you might have somebody that wants to retire at 62. They still want to stay a little bit active. Now you got to be careful because Social Security is going to cap you on how much you can earn before they start penalizing you $1 for every $2 you make. I think the current is what, 18,000. 18,600 is the is the current cap that you can make if you're retired at 62 and collecting Social Security. But it's a very successful strategy. It can be done very, very well as long as you get the organization of the cash flow sources the right way. You understand how Social Security works and the thresholds that they have in place. It should be great.
Absolutely. Brian, thank you so much.
You know, it's really amazing how many people we hear that from. Because, you know, people always have this kind of end date in mind of when they're going to decide to retire. But what happens typically is, you know, the company's changing a lot. Maybe they're eliminating positions and now they're doing three different jobs. And so they're just wearing out sooner. And so, you know, we have to continue to adjust the plans that we build for folks because of those early retirement dates.
Sure,
I think
that
also,
makes sense.
I think also too, you know, a lot of times, you know, what we're able to do is show somebody actually how to exit earlier than what they anticipated. So a lot of times, once they know that they can exit, they feel, you know, that they're in a position of strength now, meaning they can walk in any day and just say, I'm done. And that's the power of figuring out your numbers, right?
I think that actually relieves a lot of stress on them,
does,
and it makes them work maybe a little bit longer,
right?
Because they feel like they're in the position of power now.
That makes sense.
They're not forced to go into work. They could at any time say, you know what, this is just becoming ridiculous. Next month, I'm no longer showing up.
We've had a number of clients over the years where we'll build out a plan for them. And maybe we show them a retirement at 62, but their real retirement date maybe isn't going to be till 66. And within a year of us working with them, they'll come back and they'll say, I'm going to go at 62. I'm done, because we show them the numbers. And so they feel, they feel empowered to be able to say, I'm done. And there's nothing better than being empowered with your own numbers and knowing where you stand. Unfortunately, I would say a majority of people, 70, 80% of the people we meet, maybe more than that, really don't understand where they stand mathematically, and they don't understand what their portfolio actually needs to do in order to get them retired. And there's fundamentals that need to be followed. One of the things that we talked about a lot are the different buckets of money that you need to have. But more importantly, the way you reverse engineer it is you've got to figure out what your rate of return needs to be. Once you can figure out what your rate of return needs to be, and there's 3 rates we look at. There's a spend down rate, a preservation rate, and a legacy rate, which we'll talk about when you come to the office for your portfolio analysis. But those rates are important because that drives the risk of the portfolio.
Sure. That makes sense. Brian, thank you so much. Neil, this is a great question for you. Neil, the whole idea, from Mount Lebanon, by the way, the whole idea of not working anymore makes me really nervous about our financial future. I've worked for over 50 years and I can't imagine just stopping. How can I know that the resources I have accumulated will meet our needs for the rest of our lives? We have 1 minute and 40 seconds left.
Yeah, great question. I think that's, to Brian's point of what he was just speaking about, a lot of people have no idea where they stand, what that money that they've accumulated over the years can produce for them, until they really get that peace of mind by coming in, sitting down, seeing what it can do, even utilizing, we use pretty low rates of return when we show our numbers, because we want to look at what happens if it really didn't do well. What happens if the market was really volatile? What happens on those types of things? So when they see that, it really gives you peace of mind. But I get it. I mean, after working for 50 years, all of a sudden you're used to accumulating, and now you're in distribution. That can be pretty tough for people. I think so. That's the main reason that you really want to have a plan in place.
Yeah, we always say, let's make bad things happen on paper. Let's look at worst case scenario and expect the best.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. Well, Brian, we have about 40 seconds left of the show. Anything you want to impart to the viewers at home before we close?
Folks, if you want to know if you're on the right track, which most people do, and if you're not on the right track, it's probably better you know that now than later. But call in for your portfolio analysis, 1-888-382-1298. It's complimentary. We've seen other people charge up to $1,000 or more for similar features or offers. We're going to do it complimentary. The risk is on us. You just need to dial 1-888-382-1298.
Gentlemen, thank you for another amazing show this week. To the viewers at home, thank you for the viewer questions. Please keep those coming. Be safe, be happy, be blessed. We're going to see you back here 1 week from today, same time, same location. Take care.